Greetings. This is How Does Sociology Impact My Life by Isabella Gauntz, and the topic I chose was transracial adoption. To start with a basic definition, transracial adoption is placing a child who is of one race or ethnic group with adoptive parents of another. Before delving into my research, I formulated 3 research questions. How do transracially adopted children develop a sense of racial identity and belonging, and how do adoptive parents support this process? How do transracial adoptees and their families cope with racial discrimination and prejudice, and what strategies do they use to promote resilience and positive adaptation? And lastly, how can society better support and promote positive outcomes for transracial adoptees and their families? Adoption has the power of interfering with some of the most intimate realms and places of human coexistence. This makes adoption a tricky subject. However, transracial adoption is a completely different ballgame. Mixed race children and their adopted families face tensions and inquiries regarding social belonging that same race adopted families do not. Stigma around transracial adoption in the United States is partly due to its history. Cross-racial adoption began after World War II when children born to servicemen overseas that were orphaned at home gained attention from the American public. These families face harmful stereotypes and backlash, and some of this has been traced back to systematic racism faced by indigenous communities across North America. In 1972, during the Black Power movement, the National Association of Black Social Workers took a stand against black children being adopted by white parents, and this is a recurring topic in the wake of protests. One, for example, was after the killing of George Floyd. There is a hypocritical air around transracial adoption as well. Parents are praised for adopting children of different race. However, society pushes away and casts aside the same parents of those same children through U.S. foreign policy. Also, people who disapprove of racially integrated families tend to draw on patterns of segregation. These normative experiences lead to people to make decisions discouraging interracial relationships and solidifying a segregated status quo. Lastly, a majority of parents who adopt across racial lines are white. This causes concerns to arise about the differences between the white perception of the world against the experiences and worldviews held by children of color. Zhao found in 2019 that transnational adoptees position themselves as white when they are faced with the norm of whiteness. Although phenotypic differences may put them in a minimized position, adoption gives them a unique access to whiteness and possibly even certain privileges that accompany it. Next, the ability of white parents to effectively raise and parent children of a different race is called into question, given potential challenges that may arise due to differences in race and ethnicity. These parents tend to vacillate between colorblind and color-conscious parenting styles. Colorblind is a style in which parents minimize or ignore differences in race and ethnicity in an effort to promote equality and avoid the perception of prejudice or bias. This style may involve avoiding discussions about race, encouraging children to be colorblind, and treat everyone the same. While this may be well intentioned and can be detrimental to children's development of positive racial and ethnic identities, it does not allow them to explore their it does not allow them to explore and appreciate their own cultural heritage. Color conscious parenting style is where parents actively acknowledge and address racial and ethnic differences and promote positive racial and ethnic identity development. This style involves discussing race and ethnicity openly and honestly, and this approach can promote positive self esteem, cultural pride, and a greater understanding and appreciation of diversity. Regardless, families made by white parents and non-white kids face unordinary racial boundaries on a micro-sociological level. However, there are measures that can be taken to counteract the stigma. Adoptive parents can either minimize the impact of race with a color blindness approach or choose to take steps to ethnically socialize children. Linear regression models have shown that parents who interact more frequently with ethnic minorities and endorse less colorblind attitudes are more likely to expose their children to their cultural heritage. And this was found by Habsburensky and Leslie in 2018. Additionally, by encouraging parents to engage with people of different races and challenging their own colorblind attitudes, adoption adoption professionals can foster a family environment that meets the needs of transracial adoptees. To help this, the Multi-Ethnic and Interethnic Placement Acts of 1994 and 1996 prohibit the use of race as a deciding factor in adoption placement. Also, workers in the adoption system can no longer use race as a category to choose between possible parent-child matches. Now I will transition into the fairy tale side of things, and I myself am a transracial adoptee. And my experience has truly been a fairy tale, and I am just absolutely blessed to be with the family I am today. In front in the picture are my parents, Stony and Denise. I am in the green, and standing beside me is my brother, Vincent. And to return to my research questions, I'm going to answer them with my newfound knowledge upon this research and my own lived in experience as a transracial adoptee. So, for the first question, my parents actively taught my brother and me about our culture and heritage throughout our whole lives, and they took the time to educate themselves so they could be equipped with answers to our questions. Two, when people ask questions, my family and I openly share our experiences and answer questions to educate people. I feel as though this helps people understand the interworkings of our family rather than judge. And lastly, based on my experience, the best thing society can do is be open to learning and be willing to set their own prejudice aside to do so. Here is a list of my references, and this has been my capstone project. Thank you.